Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 326 with Anna Albright from Clemacooling. Um, I got this information from somebody else, for Anna's, I guess I would call it more like suspenders at this point, right? Would you call it that?
Yeah, so I call it a smart cooling vest or a smart cooling
Oh, okay.
suspenders. The
That
concept is imagine you put something on without ice or anything, and it can cool your body over 25 degrees all day, no ice. That's what we built.
Right. Well, that's what really got me thinking then about this whole thing is that it's not too hot where I am, but every so often we get these days where it's 100. But there's a lot of days where I work down there in Texas, it would be 110, no shade or anything. It would just be super brutal, just hot days over and over and over again. And of course, this is like the old days back in the 80s and 90s, and we always said, why can't somebody come up with something? And so I think it's really awesome that you guys do have something there. That's out there now.
Well, yeah, anybody who's listening who lives anywhere in the South, like Texas, Arizona, Louisiana, even up north, Midwest this year, it's been so hot and there's been no relief. And if you work in safety, the only thing you have to help is behavioral controls. And sometimes behavioral controls don't cut it because maybe your crew is really proud and they don't want to take breaks, or, maybe your higher ups are pushing for really fast production and it doesn't afford breaks. And there needs to be a solution that's technological, right? Because sometimes just
Hmm.
saying breaks is not possible or it's not enough. So that's
Right.
that's why I'm building what I'm building.
Right. And I know that even me as a proud young man that I would never say that I was hot because then everybody on the crew would know that I was hot. Like I had to be just as tough as those guys. We were going to get this job done and all that. So people can say that they know better and everything else, but a lot of times just that good old-fashioned pride will kick in, and you're not going to show any let's call it weakness with the crew, around there then.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one thing I hear is that it's often new joiners to crews that are the ones that get heat illness or heat incidents. Part of it's because they're not acclimatized. Part of it is because they really feel like they need to prove themselves. They don't want to stick their neck out. They're working with all these like really macho, strong men. They don't want to seem weak, even though their body's not acclimatized. And that's when heat illness happens. And so yeah, it's actually a huge cultural challenge that safety managers have to overcome is how do you get really strong, way stronger than me, proud men to admit that, they need to take breaks, they need to take it slow sometimes, and also see the value of how can you be, you'll actually be more productive if you take breaks often than if you go straight through in extreme heat.
Yeah. I never found a way for people to take a voluntary break. I really struggled with that whole thing, but luckily, just being the safety guy, I could say things like, "Hey, I've decided that we're all taking a break," because
Yep.
then it kind of took the pressure off of the macho guy. He's like, "Well, I wasn't going to take a break, but Dave said I had to, so now I got to." But I also get that not every work site has that out there then. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think about a lot, and I'm sure that you're familiar with it, but heat safety regulations are very different state to state. And OSHA was drafting national heat safety regulations, which was very exciting. I was actually part of one of the committees directly contributing to the drafting. I was the only
Oh,
startup
awesome.
founder, yeah, on it. And I was excited. I mean, they weren't perfect, but I was excited that we'd finally have protections for every worker that's heat exposed in America.
Mhm.
But then it seems like Congress has now blocked it and not just blocked the heat safety regulations, but blocked the ability to ever have national heat safety regulations again, which to me is very upsetting because having the law behind you makes it a lot easier to keep people safe than having to do it, than having to push for it on your own. As a safety person, you don't always have that authority and it might be hard. And what I'm expecting to see is a further divide in different states around like the safety and the protections that workers get. So if you live in California or New York or Massachusetts or Oregon or Washington, you have great protections, especially around heat safety. But if you live in actually the hottest states with the most industrial work, like Texas, Arizona, Louisiana, Florida, you have nothing, no protection. And these are the people that are driving really hard, the people working in oil and gas, the people building uh, data centers, hyperscalers in record-breaking times. They have no protection in the law. And that's really upsetting because I think like every worker deserves to be safe in heat. And the fact that the law is now diverging so much state by state is very upsetting, and that we might never be able to pass a heat safety regulation again.
Right. Well, one of the things that got me drawn to your vest was that um, everybody kind of figures out little tips and tricks and all that stuff out there. Like I like would take a wet rag and leave it inside of my cooler, and that would help out. But of course, it would be back to everyday temperature in a minute or two, you know. So I mean, it definitely helped, but it was not a sustained help or anything. And then I would just stick it back in the cooler for the next break, you know, afterwards. So people do come up with little tips and tricks, but that's not a real solution out there. That's just something that works for them.
Yeah, something
Mhm.
that I've heard is you can search cooling vest or cooling material. You'll see things that come up. You'll see vests that are called PCM, which sounds really fancy, but it just stands for phase change material, which is solid going to liquid. It's just ice.
Mhm.
Or you'll see fan vests, or you'll see cooling towels. And at first glance, like when I searched this, they seemed real. They seemed legit. But when I dug into how they worked and I started talking to safety managers and testing them out, all of them have some fatal flaw. Either it's ice-based, which is very annoying to freeze, and you need a freezer on site, which is not always feasible, and they don't last. They melt like a popsicle in July, melt really fast on your body. They're sloshing around. Or in the case of evaporative cooling, it doesn't work in humidity. And with fans, that might be nice in moderate temperatures, but we all know the feeling of getting into a hot car and turning on the AC and then this hot air blowing on you. Hot air blowing on you doesn't actually keep you cool. So, everything on the market that I saw was completely inadequate and unable to keep workers actually cool and safe for the full day. And I had this vision of could there be wearable AC or like a climate control layer that you just wear on your body that always keeps you the right temperature without having to deal with ice or freezing or water that works in all heat conditions, including humidity. And that's what I developed with Klima.
Right. Awesome. So let's get into some of the like particulars out there. So I'm more
Yeah.
of a I'm more of a detailed guy. Like they always say, don't worry about details, but I'm all about the details, you know. So when I look at something that's new and upcoming, I start to think, is it really going to work for the application that I have out there? You know, so let's first talk about the size. So I have just a couple of notes. How do you get the sizing? Because you can find some super tiny people, but you also find some really large people out there too.
So, short answer, we
Hmm.
have two versions and it's adjustable.
Hmm.
Long answer, this is one of the central challenges and why something like this doesn't exist yet, is because human bodies, they're not a fixed system. They're not one size fits all. If you're creating like a air conditioning unit that you put in the corner of the room, it can just be one size. Or if you're fitting something that needs to cool a machine, it can be one size. But human bodies are so different. And this is one of the central challenges. There are tall people, short people, fat people, women, men, like every pregnant people, like all sorts of different body shapes and sizes. And you need a system that sits flush against this diverse topology of different human bodies while also being comfortable. And that was one of the design questions and challenges that we took on. And thankfully we developed something that works, but it was one of the main problems that we were addressing is how do you create something that works for all the different human body shapes?
Right. So you had mentioned comfort, right? Or how do you guys kind of factor in the comfort since some people are going to be really into the comfort, whereas others are just, all right, awesome, I'm cool, everything's fine.
Yeah, so the comfort is, we want it to be really lightweight, so it's under 3 pounds, very
Mhm.
slim. It can sit under your PPE. So that was very important to us because with a big bulky vest, you can't wear it with any existing PPE that you have to wear on the job site. So it needed to work with that. And then our motto since I started this company is we're building this for workers and for people. So every step along the way, we're asking for input and feedback of how can we make this more comfortable? How does it feel? And that's informed every design decision we've made.
Mhm. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, anytime that you can get some feedback from folks, and it can't be feedback like I like it or I don't. There has to be like some real some substance in it that you can build on, you know. So awesome. That's
Yeah.
good. And it has to be from the folks who use it, you know. My days of using that stuff is behind me, you know. So I would not be a good person to ask if it worked or it didn't work. I could say if my folks liked it or didn't like it. But when you talk to the folks who really use it, that's really good there.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about battery life and how do you charge it?
Yeah, so it's just a standard lithium-ion battery,
Mhm.
um, intrinsically safe. And if you've ever had like a backup battery used to charge your phone, you just plug it in,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You know, like with your phone charger. And what's really nice about that is you don't have to freeze anything. You don't need a new charger. It just you plug it in overnight. And the plugs that we send with our units actually come with like four cords, so you can charge multiple of them at once. And it's the easiest thing you can charge in your car anywhere.
Oh, okay, okay. So one of my other questions, of course, was going to be, is there a estimated price yet?
So that is something that we are, developing right now. We've been in
Mhm.
R&D and we haven't landed on a final price yet. But, if anybody listening to this is interested, like feel free to reach out and we can chat about that. But,
Mhm.
at this point, we've been more focusing on let's get it to work and
Mhm.
prove the value of it, and then we'll land on final pricing.
Okay, good, good, good. Because if the pricing is low enough, then it'll probably be issued out to the actual person. If it's not, it'll have to be scooped up every day, plugged in again, and all that stuff. So, which also leads to how do you go back and wash or clean this thing? Because some folks, of course, are going to say, I don't like somebody else's germs. How do I know it's not a new clean vest I'm getting? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we recommend each person gets their own just to be safe.
Good. Good.
But the way so for our pilot prototypes, like you can just easily wipe it. At scale, you'll be able to wash it.
Oh, okay. Awesome, Ned. That's really good, Ned. So,
Mhm.
um, because you could always say, yeah, I'll take it, I'll wipe it down, I'll do stuff, but maybe that'll happen and maybe that won't. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. How about the different colors out there? Since there are certain places where when you go, you have to have a yellow vest or a orange vest or
Yeah, so
Mhm,
I think in the future we'll expand to different colorways. Right now it's just like a sleek black look. I can
mhm,
show it to you.
mhm.
Um, a sleek black look that we think looks good and eventually we'll expand to other colors, but now it's just functionally black and it goes underneath your PPE, so
Mhm.
it doesn't need to be seen, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true. So then, but you could just wear it with everyday clothes too, as well, right?
Exactly, exactly. You could wear it anytime. You could wear it like gardening or whatever.
Right.
Right now
Okay.
we're just issuing it to workers,
Hmm.
physical like construction, industrial workers.
Hmm.
But eventually you can wear it anytime.
Right, right, right. Okay. Perfect. I think I did a share screen. If I didn't, tell me. And
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. This is a model, my brother, but yes, this is a model wearing it. And if you can see, it's just very, very slim and lightweight. And it
Mhm.
has it kind of looks like suspenders, but inside it is this cooling technology, thermoelectric based cooling technology that can cool you more than 25 degrees. So it's really slim. Like you could imagine just wearing this and being cooled. It feels pretty magical.
That would be really really good. And I also like how it's. I shouldn't say colors because you can really do it with any kind of color out there. But there's also probably some applications for folks who are pouring concrete. You're working in a warehouse, loading trucks, you know, all kind of stuff where you may not be wearing like PPE over it, but you could still have it on, of course.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, and this works in pretty much every environment. In fact,
Hmm.
in our pilots, we're putting it on people who are doing explosives work, like blowing things up.
Hmm.
And it works in every environment. And, the great part is you don't need to refill anything, you don't need to freeze anything, you just have a battery and it works. And it's kind of hard to see, but yeah, this is another picture of it. It's just like
Hmm.
really slim and lightweight. It keeps you cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah.
Oh, really neat. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, it's just a nice slim fit. It's easy. It looks the weight is really low on there too. So
Yeah.
the charging, is that just like a standard plug?
Yeah, just like a standard plug, like I can show
Hmm.
you right now.
Hmm.
If you have any plug like this, like a USB-C,
Oh,
it's
that's easy
like
then.
that. It's like the easiest, most common way to charge anything.
Okay, awesome then. Good, 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 good. Because probably folks may have to take it off at lunch and do some small things. Uh,
Yeah.
what was the battery life? I think you had mentioned it before.
So it's on one charge, 4 to 6 hours. You switch it out with another battery at lunch, which we send extra batteries. That's eight to
Okay.
12 hours with like no downtime. It's super easy, super long lasting, very lightweight, and this is like significantly longer than everything else on the market.
Mhm. Awesome then. Good, good. And so the other one can charge as you're wearing it then,
Exactly,
basically.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not like something you have to stick in a freezer.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Let's see if there was anything else that jumped out at me here.
One thing I want to talk to
Hmm.
people about,
Hmm.
more than my product, because like I'm very proud of what we built and I think it's
Hmm.
really important,
Hmm.
but is also just like the importance of caring about heat. Because right
Hmm.
now, heat is people think about it as a safety issue and it's relegated just to safety. And that means there hasn't been much investment in it. There hasn't been much innovation in it. People haven't really thought about the true implication of it. But what people don't realize is that heat, more than anything, is a huge drain on production and productivity. So there's been really interesting analysis that every 2 degree above room temperature, every degree Celsius, you lose 2% of your output, your production, no matter what kind of work you're doing. And so when it gets to 90 or 100 degrees, you've lost, and tons of research backs this up, 30 to 40% of your production. And that, that might seem hypothetical, but when you start applying that to your crew, that means that each of your workers is losing literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of work each year just from heat, just from working slower in heat, from breaks, everything like that. And so
Hmm.
if you can effectively keep them cool, either by installing HVAC and AC if you're indoors, or, a Clemacooling vest, you can actually restore their production and there's a real ROI. And one way I like to illustrate that is I have this calculator on my website that I want to go
Hmm.
through with you.
Yeah.
So
Pop it up. Perfect. Okay.
yeah, so we can do this together, but
Hmm.
let's say you have like 1,000 workers, they're paid $350 a day or something. There's 80 hot days a year, so this is
Hmm.
moderate. This is not like full Texas heat.
Hmm.
You can adjust the full model and go here. And
Hmm.
the ROI to using our solution for in 1 year is $10,000 per worker or $10 million overall. And that's like a 26x return on investment. And that's because continuing business as usual, it's not just hurting people's safety, it is massively reducing their production. And especially if you are working on a project that's time sensitive, this doesn't even account for the value of the delays because, if you miss an interconnection deadline for uh, like a energy project, it gets very, very pricey. So what I recommend people listening to this think about is, you know, what is it costing you to continue business as usual, right? Because it's not, people will look at what we're doing and they'll say, oh, that's expensive. But it's so much cheaper than the cost of continuing to operate with these productivity losses in the heat. And so I'm not saying that our solution is the one that people need to go with, but investing in keeping their workers cool all day has very real return on investment. And I
Right.
recommend people play around with this and see the costs. It's on my website.
Oh, something very good, very good. Yeah, that's something that we struggle with as safety folks is how do you really show a return on the investment?
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to measure when somebody's hurt. It's not easy to measure when somebody is not hurt. How do you go back and say because they were not hurt, we made five more widgets, or we built the tower faster, or we so that's something that as safety professionals we really struggle with a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And you're used to thinking about risk management as opposed to return on investment. And
Right.
that also makes it harder to ask for budget, right? But if you go to whatever you're asking for, I'm not saying just for cooling gear, but if you go to your managers and you bring a return on investment and you talk about that, you're
Mhm.
going to get more budget than if you go talking about safety. And
Mhm.
this is kind of pessimistic of me to say because everybody's company will say safety first, safety is the priority. But when it comes to budget, the higher ups care about ROI more than they care about safety. Like they're
Oh yeah.
okay
Mhm. Mhm.
half-ass, yeah, they're okay
Mhm.
half-assing safety.
Mhm.
But if you can prove, wow, this thing will pay for itself 10 times over, that's when you get that budget.
Right. Yep, that's I wouldn't say that's a bad outlook. That's probably just what today is. So I
Yeah,
like to think that it'll change, but I've been saying that for 30 years. It hasn't changed yet. So
yeah. And I hope that one day like safety gets the budget it needs, but in most of the time it doesn't. So you have to work with what you have and you have to understand organizational dynamics.
right, exactly. So we
But
just see if there's, oh, sorry, please, go ahead.
one thing that I think about too is uh, just overall, we're so willing to invest as a society in operations and maintenance for machines. Like, how do you increase throughput? How do you increase uptime of machines? So much money will be put into that for even single digit increases in output. We are not doing the same for people, right? We say we care most about people, and yet there's been no innovation to keep them safer or more productive. And there's been no investment into that. And people have been afraid to put a single dollar behind helping workers work harder. And I think that needs to change, especially as for organizations that say they're worker first. You look where the money is going, and it's not going into enabling them to be more productive and safe. And I hope that that mindset can change because why is it we're willing to invest so much in machines, operations, but not at all in keeping our people more productive and safe?
Right. Well, I think it gets back to something that you can measure. You know, the machine works and the widget was made. But with humans, it's always hard. It's always hard. And that's not really a way that I'm saying that it's right or I'm covering up for the company. They just really struggle with that.
Yeah. No, I
Hmm.
know. Because it's a little bit less measurable, but that doesn't mean the impact isn't there. So
Right.
that's one thing we're trying to do is like actually measure what are the increases of production that you see when you're wearing a cooling wearable, right? Because then it's measurable and people can have that data and it's not hypothetical anymore.
Right. Let me look at my notes to see if there was anything else. I think we covered everything. Just
Yeah.
do one more look here to make sure. I think that I'm really good. I mean, do you have any parting words for the folks out there? Oh, and how can folks catch up with you and your company and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. My name is Anna Albright. You can find my website, clemacooling.com, CLEMA cooling.com. And there you can contact me, add some time to my calendar. I really love talking to people. For context, like in this time, we're not in sales mode, we're in development mode. So if you have any thoughts or any impressions of on what I'm working on and you want to help shape it, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a casual conversation. And I'm designing this for you guys. I'm designing a product that will make your job easier and your crews better. So if you want to give me input, I'd love to hear it. And then the last single thing I want to leave you guys with is safety is one of the most important professions. None of our economy would be able to function productively without you guys. And you are superheroes. And I feel grateful every day that I get to serve you guys and work with you and talk to you. I think you're the best group of people I could ever serve. And, I used to work in corporate, I used to work in investment banking and management consulting. And you guys are just much nicer and more generous. And yeah, I feel lucky. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Anna. Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. And with that, let's go ahead there and wrap up episode 326 with Anna Albright. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.